Aloha, captains. Welcome on board Unlocking Ocean's Economy with Captain Londy Ngcobo. I can't wait to dive deep into the challenges that the industry has in the maritime world, but I can't wait to dig even deeper on the opportunities that the industry offers. Aloha, captains. Welcome on board Unlocking Ocean's Economy with Captain Londy Ngcobo. I want to take this moment to remind you that we're gonna enter into this journey where we uncharter these really chartered fields. And I think that it will be fitting for you to grab your life jacket because it's about to go down as we debunker the myths, the ins and outs of bunkering. As a maritime consultant and a professional public speaker, I find myself in a sweet spot now where I get to extract and draw 16 years of my experience in the industry and also drive impactful conversations with captains of industry. Hello, Captain.
Hello.
I'm so happy that you're here. You know, with everything happening with you, girl, you were like, Lund, I will not say no to this because I am for you. I want to acknowledge you and thank you for being here with my whole heart. Gabong.
It's a pleasure. You know, the one thing that I do is show up for my tribe. I say this with such vigor, and I've said it a few times, and I speak of this tribe that we need to create. I've said it for many years, given the fact that it's the very tribe that has put me where I am. It's the shoulders and bogotas like you, Londy, that have made me achieve what I need to achieve. I found you in the industry. I call myself a boss baby, a novice in the industry that's only been here for 6 years, yet those around me think that I have achieved and I've seen it. Yes, maybe I have moved from the first floor of a novice to the fourth floor in terms of calling myself, rightfully so, a captain of industry.
Yes.
But I'll always show up for my tribe, no matter what.
You always show up for your tribe. I remember hearing you speak for the first time. It was the CMTP, one of the CMTP events back in 2019. I was like, who's she? Who is she? Where's she been? And interestingly, I was just a year before I would have reached my milestone in resigning because I had a 2-year exit plan. And I met you just a year before. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll be good. I'll actually be fine out there, out of the oceans.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you've just been there. You know, you've just been that sounding board. I'm still in the consulting space where you started. And you've niched and beautifully unpacked where your passion lies and beautifully walked rooms, filled rooms where we saw little transformation. And maybe let's speak about that.
It's an issue of, I think, not necessarily, it's having intent, right? When I started, incorrectly so, I started in 2014 as a consultant in the transformation space, writing the transport BE codes. I then moved in 2016 to write the petroleum liquid codes with DME, or DOE at the time, which is now DMRA. I found myself in 2018 creating a convergence of the two and going into the bunkering space, which I hope you're going to ask what is bunkering, because most people think I do offshore banking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. So when they
Banking.
say offshore banking, you're like, yes.
Do they take it there?
Yeah, no, they do.
Okay, we'll unpack bunkering for you.
I think very few people like not knowing that they know, that they don't know something, so they just pretend that they do. So I then got into the offshore bunkering space in 2019 when I got my license and then got approved by SAMHSA. But the consulting space taught me a lot. It made me meet a lot of people. It taught me the industry from a rudimentary perspective, where we then understand the policy that underpins it, that underpins what it is that we're trying to achieve. So a lot of people believe that we live in a failed state and that South Africa is a banana republic, but we are not. We are actually quite a solid structure and a solid straight with we're fallible as a country, but we definitely have the policies that underpin transformation and growth. I then moved into this, and I find myself in 2023 for all my sins as chairperson of the transport sector at BU Codes, where I then take care of.
That happened this year.
This happened this year. I was appointed, and we were inaugurated by the Minister of Transport, Minister Chikunga, in May. So the sectors that fall under me are it's aviation, maritime, road freight, public sector, meaning SAMSA, Transnet, AXA, SACA, or civil aviation. You then look at rail, forwarding and clearing, taxi and bus.
Girl.
It's quite a mammoth task when you're trying to transform all 8 industries of transport, and it's the biggest sector in the economy, and yet we are the ethos of the sector. We are the crux of it.
Of course,
transport is what drives this economy. We're the biggest GDP. So I find myself as transformation being my passion. The beauty of changing lives and tangibly seeing changes of lives is something that I'm quite passionate about.
Yeah, I think you've walked that. And you've been very intentional. I don't think you've ever left any platform without dropping transformation as the forefront of your own passion, of everything that you walk into. But I want to know, as people would want to understand, you.
Okay.
Guys, she's got the most beautiful smiles. Like, listen, I wake up and I'm just like, I want a better day. I would glance on pictures or I would video call and I'm just like, everything is beautiful and nothing hurts. What anchors you?
God. I'm anchored by God. I'm anchored by spirituality. I'm anchored by my children and my family. I'm anchored by my tribe. I'm anchored by people like you who I watch, and I'm in awe of knowing where you come from and what it is that you've achieved. I'm anchored by the fact that I always give the best of who I am. I said this to someone the other day, and they were like, they're trying to get a hold of me. And I said, I will call you back when I can give you the best of me. And that means being present in that 1 minute, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, but literally giving you who I am and being present in that conversation in all aspects of who I am. I'm anchored by that. I'm anchored by being a good person and wanting to do good all the time, regardless. I mean, I'm going through a situation right now where I think I'm being dealt lemons daily. But you'd be surprised. Every morning I wake up and I look at the skyline and I say, today I'm going to take these lemons and I'm going to make lemonade. The other day it was pina coladas.
Okay.
So I wake up.
Okay. I'm here for that.
What
Let's have some pina coladas.
Lemons to do.
All right.
And at the end of the day, I say, we try again tomorrow.
Wow. And I'm glad that you share that, because, I mean, you and I talk, but there's so much that happens in a first of this, in a chairperson of, and for you to, like I literally said, I'm going to ask you to come, because I think that it doesn't leave us what we stand for, even through turmoil, even through the hardest days of our lives. There's something that calls us to say, I have to come through and serve. And I think that's why you're here.
Completely.
Yeah. I think I also want to understand if you understand who is on board with you in your life. Do you know who is on board? Have you unpacked who's on board with you? Have you kicked people off your ship, Captain? Have you onboarded people on your ship, Captain?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a saying that says it's lonely at the top, and it is.
It's true.
It is, because we all come from places where people don't understand. So I'm from Marikana, right? So I'm not from Beach Durban.
By the way, we have the nice view on the beach just behind us.
I'm from Marikana, which is it's a mining town outside of Brits. It's like, I call it Bapong. That's where I'm from. So I come from inland. I'm a hinterland girl. And one of the first times I came down here, and I saw a roll-off roll-on.
Yes, yes.
And I looked
A
at this
Ro-Ro
thing.
is a ship that carries vehicles, cars, you name it. They roll on and they roll off. That's why they're called Ro-Ros.
And this thing is massive. And I looked at it and I said, one day I'm going to own ships.
Oh,
And the journey of achieving that through the manifestation and being intentional about what it is that I want to achieve, and sitting as Kgomotso or KG. I mean, one thing that we need to discuss is how many people know KG. Very few people know
but they
Kgomotso.
don't know Kgomotso. Actually,
So sitting as,
you're right.
as KG, they apparently I'm the face of bunkering.
You are. Hence, you are on the season premiere of Unlocking Ocean's Economy with Captain Londy.
And being partners with Traffic Euro Frontline Golden Ocean, which is, I guess, one of the biggest global bunkering entities in the world, it's quite a lonely space because, you have to be this person that's prim and proper and pristine.
Yes.
And you work within parameters. And you find that some people come into your lives for their own reasons, whether good, whether bad. And you bring them in and you accommodate them. But what I've come to realize is that they go off on their own.
Oh,
So
wait.
they
I
go
need to
off on their
pause.
own.
They do.
They do. So I don't need to throw anyone off. You just hear someone say, man aboard.
Men are bored. And then you decide whether you throw the life ring or not.
You're just like, are you okay?
Shouldn't I?
Should I find it later? Maybe. But they leave because when you are one with your God, whoever that is, and your spirituality, and every day you say, God, show me the spirit of discernment. God, let me walk in the true path that you have destined for me. They leave anyway. It is about you accepting at that point in time that this is what you've asked for, so don't cry about it.
Okay.
Let it go.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
Let it go.
I sat with my name in times where I felt that I was losing friends, and I'm just like, what is happening? And then I had a miscarriage. And it was a year where I thought, this is going to be my year of accumulation. I have worked on visibility and I have worked on network. It's going to be my year of accumulation. And I started losing friends and I had a miscarriage. I changed the year to a year of letting go. And it just fell into, I was the most healed. I was the most calm. I didn't even worry about the next day. I flowed in just the flow of life. And I sat with my name, Londy. I said with my name, Londy. I said, Ngilondi. I'm protected. And I think that as you grow older, certain things start having more meaning. And that's when anchors start to make sense. And I think I'm all over in this conversation with you. But let's talk about bunkering. Okay. People want to know, unlocking bunkering success is what we're here for. The strategies, the challenges, the industry insights. Who is Heron Marine South Africa?
Heron Marine was the third bunker operator to be licensed and approved off the coast of Moja, where we then do offshore bunkering about 4 nautical miles off the coast. What is bunkering? It's basically a petrol station in the ocean. There's nothing...
It is a petrol station in the oceans.
That's all it is.
She'll unpack it a bit more.
Nothing sort of, rocket science about it. So you have... And people tend to call it STS bunkering. You're like, what the heck is STS bunkering? But it's bunkering.
Yes.
So, and where it comes from was that ships at a particular time, years ago, they moved from sails to being propelled through coal. There used to be a furnace and there used to be a bunker next to the coal furnace that used to have the coal for them to then throw the coal into the furnace.
Okay.
So that term bunkering just kept on for the propulsion of vessels. Whereas you have STS, which is ship-to-ship transfers, and that is where you move cargo from one vessel to another vessel, from cargo tank to cargo tank. Bunkering is literally for the propulsion of the vessels. You know, I find it weird because some people are like, ships need something. What did you think moved them?
Exactly. Much like cars.
Yeah,
much like cars. And I think you've really captained industry.
Yes.
You've really unlocked the oceans economy. And I think that you've really driven transformation within bunkering. Are you seeing the needle moving?
Look, I mean, one of the conditions of it, and as I mentioned, that we live in a country that has policies and is underpinned by the need to redress the issues of the past. We found that when we got in, I speak of Heron Marine, when we got in, one of the things that we focused on was localization and job creation. The unfortunate part of moving the crewing and the seafarers became quite a difficult one due to certain limitations in our agreements with certain nations like Marshall Islands and Malta, which I hope that the right authorities are working on. But when it came to the ideals of localizing procurement, that was something I was quite intentional about. So in the space, you realize that, or ships, the people that actually have the opportunities are the agents. And I think you need to invite an agent to your
Actually,
show.
we do have an agent coming through.
It's the agents. So you then went to the agents and we then unpacked the value chain. And I speak quite fondly about value chain optimization. So regardless of an economic downturn or where we are going as a country in terms of the rand and the fall of the rand or the rise of the rand, you will always need to have your value chain or utilize your value chain because you need your business to move. So that's the first thing I looked at. We looked at the value chain and we said, what do we bring in and what we don't? So from OPL, which was All Port Limits, we looked at the Maritime Business Chamber and they brought in their services and we coupled it with Kucha. And they use the Zamora to pick up our samples every week. We looked at drones because most people don't realize that you require drones in maritime. Because how else do you then observe the coastline? We looked at oil response, where we then brought in Oil Response International to come in and train, so that if there's ever the event of an oil spill, we can fix it quite quick.
Why did you feel the need to bring in from the international? Do we not have the capacity?
Not necessarily. So it was about enhancing the capacity. So Oil Response is the biggest one in the world, and you needed certain certification, and that certification only comes from them. So we then capacitated. So that was the building. So now we have 2 providers that then have the capacity to then do it. So we would only bring oil spill in in the event of a tier 3 spill, which is quite a large volume. I mean, you know, when you speak about shipping, when you talk about 100 or 1,000 liters, I think people it's a lot. With us, it's like a smidgen in the water. You know,
actually,
And because we truly believe in the environment, as much as people believe that the offshore bunkering, I don't know, they think we transfer using buckets, so I'm not sure what they think we use, but we honestly believe in conserving the environment. And we work with the likes of Sandcob because the African penguin is one of the most endangered in the world. So we want to preserve our coastline. But we believe it's a homogenous sort of approach where we can all use the coastline for the benefit of the environment and the wildlife, but also for the benefit of the people of South Africa.
Are you in any way, being in the bunkering space, don't want to say threatened, are you worried at all about the green shipping coming through?
No.
Okay, how so, and what's your take on it since you are environmentally savvy also within Heron Marine?
Because it's the natural progression of where we are going as the world. So, I mean, I attended a conference last week on green hydrogen, and there's talks about green hydrogen and where we're going there. But if you look at the IMO and the ideal of the decarbonization, 30% decarbonization by 2025, we will definitely see a transgression towards or a movement towards greener shipping, whether it's in the form of decarbonization, whether it's in the form of ammonia and methanol. And I think that's going to be the first step before we move towards green hydrogen, whether it's in the form of biofuels, where you look at B20, B30, B40 sort of blends where you're blending your hydrocarbons with biofuel. I don't think it's something that it's a big sort of deal, but that is the natural progression of life, because we saw post-COVID that we need to save the world. I mean, we see it all the time. I got here and I was like, I've never seen Durban this windy. You know, and last week Johannesburg was really cold, and I was saying these are the true effects of climate change, and we need to be cognizant of them.
Yes.
So we can't lie to ourselves, because our surroundings are saying that this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And we need to focus on this climate change. So in fact, we welcome it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a new sort of
I also think
venture.
so. I mean, there's an opportunity to learn, the opportunities are quite vast, because I think that we know what we know, but we'll never really know our potential unless we stretch ourselves. I mean, last year at the IMO, we hosted the parallel events, and I just felt like there was a disjoint. South Africa is nowhere close to being on board with green shipping, but the developments that I've seen, the conversations that I've sat in, I'm like, it's beautiful to know that we've accepted that this is where the world is going and we need to save the world that we live in. But I want to understand your perspective on now the South African bunkering space now, the current outlook on the South African bunkering space. Remember the Alcoa that's happening, what's happening in Alcoa now. What's your take in that? I'm sure a lot of people want to understand what's happening. It must be uncomfortable. But what's your take on just the whole overall South African bunkering?
So I'll speak as a South African citizen. I mean, obviously, as Heron Marine, we are working quite closely with the likes of, the authorities, and we are working towards ideals of compliance. But it's going to sound weird coming from me. I think it's a necessary evil.
Oh,
and it's a necessary evil because this is what happens when you pioneer a space, right? So when you're pioneering any space, this is the school fees that comes with it.
Yes.
Especially an uncharted, ambiguous space that has not necessarily been understood. So if you go back to who we are as a country, we built South Africa based on a refining nation, and we find ourselves in 2023 as a net importer of fuel. So a lot of the systems were not built for what we have become. And thus, a lot of fiscal regimes have not adapted towards what we have become. So if you see it from that perspective, that there needed to be, a huge sort of jarring in the system, for us to take a step back and say, okay, we need to catch up. We need to catch up with what you're saying, where the world is. So if you look at the likes of Fujairah or Singapore, where you have bunkering or shipping markets that are quite advanced, where you look at where we were as a country and where the likes of Monaco or Egypt are going, where you look at the likes of, a lot of our volumes moving to Port Louis, which is Mauritius or Beira, because they have adapted their fiscal regimes and their policies to the rest of the world. And it was slightly behind, but I don't think it's an intentional lack of doing it or an intentional lack of not wanting. I think it's just us as industry and captains of industry coming together saying, okay, how do we then work together with government to then, help us move and get to those spaces that are aligned to global trade.
Beautiful. I think that the ins and outs of it, the regulations, policy around the space of bunkering, it needs more nurturing than we think. I think there's too much happening. There's a lot of moving parts. And I don't doubt that you, walking the walk, you being planted as the trusted captain of industry, will be able to unlock more and find that inclusivity that we're all hungry for. I want you to know that we are for you always, and no pressure at all, because I appreciate that when you have to break, you break. When you have to say, Londy, I can't show up now, you don't have to. But when you do show up, you drop bombs like you just did now. Hey, girl. KG, there's a young boy that follows your work, that loves your work. And I told Global Maritime Youth, being my foundation, we're facilitating the supply, skills and demand, really trying to figure out where everyone cannot be left behind and just try to plug in where connections will be. And I know that people are always willing to answer a question or two, not to impose mentorship because that needs to happen organically. But this boy says, I'm definitely am this one that wants to ask this KG. And yes, it's this KG to you. I want you to open your mind up to this boy. He has a question for you.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Lebohan Tlalele, and I'm a third-year student studying diploma in nautical science at the University of Durban.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And what I wanted to know is that, like, the bunkering sector, right? Mm-hmm. It's I don't know, according to what I've researched, it's pretty much a male-dominated sector, isn't it? So I wanted to know, how did you, like, go on your way on working up the ranks in order to becoming a CEO?
Okay. You know, I don't necessarily think it's a bunkering sector. I think the maritime industry
Yes.
itself is a very male-dominated space. But, you know, I'm going to tell you a little, school you a little, but you should know this because you're a third-year student, that
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have one of the longest coastlines in Africa. So there are, I think, about 3,400 kilometers of coastline. And we have what we call a confluence.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have the sort of the current of the Atlantic and the warmth of the East, of
Yes.
the Indian that come together, that creates this biodiversity.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's how I see it, as being a woman. So you constantly need to bring in the masculine energy that comes with the cold of the Atlantic, and the feminine energy that comes with the warmth of the Indian. And there's this biodiversity that constantly comes through where the two energies are in confluence. And because you are able to then bring in the emotional intelligence that comes with mainly feminine energy, and I'm not saying men don't have it, but and the technical ability that comes with, or the logic that comes with the masculine energy, the rise is not so difficult.
Oh.
You then find yourself being able to sit in these boardrooms and not asking for a seat at the table, but actually dragging a chair from the other room and putting it there.
Yes.
And saying, you will hear me. Because I'm not leaving, I'm here to stay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I found myself 5 years later as in the space and as I guess the CEO of Heron Marine and being seen as one of the biggest bunker operators in the country.
Oh.
Captains, there you have it. The captain has spoken. We have debunkered the industry of bunkering. Connect, like, share, subscribe. Make noise about all things unlocking oceans economy with Captain Londy, because more people need to know these kind of powerhouses that I'm able to bring on board this platform. KG, we have a beautiful gift that we have prepared for you. Don't open it, but I like it for me and I like it for you. Thank you so much, and thanks for agreeing to do this again. I'm very grateful. All right. Keep the ship afloat. You know what to do. See you next episode.